Are we missing someone?
I think.
Good morning, everyone. So we start the session with a prayer.
Number 6.
Page number 6. Soje jonala chonjo bade dane chazo chin dage jinzo jebe sonam chin dola penje sonje drupa sho
Sanje chedan
soje jonala chonjo bade dane chazo chin dage jinzo jebe sonam chin dola penje sonje drupa sho
Sanje chedan soje
Chonala chonjo bade dane chazo chin dage jinzo jebe sonam chin dola penje sanje dropa sho
Sunjang tangje
dewa dan dewe judan denpa juji dunye dan dunye ge judan tewa juji dunye mebe dewa danpa dan mendewa juji
Nyeren chadan
Nidan dewe danyon chenmola nebar juji
Sunjang tangje
dewa dan dewe judan denpa juji dunye dan dunye ge judan tewa juji dunye mebe dewa danpa dan mendewa juji Nyeren chadan nidan dewe danyon chenmola nebar juji
Sumjang tangje
dewa dan dewe judan denpa juji
dunye dan dunye
ge judan tewa juji dunye mebe dewa danpa dan mendewa juji nyere chadan nyen dewe danyon chenmola nebar juji So, are all of you ready now?
아니 지난기 주체는 senjoatan 보고니 아니 수미틀 딜레이나 치고요. 라 미슬 하마들라. 데데 뭐 치든 안도 치고라.
So, before we begin, I would like to stress again the importance of the manner in which you approach spirituality, be it practice or be it study. Spirituality is not concerned with earning spirituality, the study of spirituality and the practice of spirituality is not something that is merely concerned with earning a livelihood or anything like that. Spirituality, as we discussed before, is a process of inner transformation. It's an effort that we extend towards ourselves to transform our mind, and with that transformation, then we can begin to experience true fulfillment, true happiness in our lives.
아니 양거 미스니디 내 마음 참아선 땅도 가래 이나 디 참아선 땅에 가르라나 소소 지금 지부 위에 시든 어디 지거라 다디 지부 위에는 아주 가르소고들나 지부 마요에 주디 파카야다 지부 위에 주디 추르에 만 삼스당으로
So, normally we do not really pay attention to what exactly can afford us true happiness because we go about our lives in a very mindless manner, very busy with our pursuits, with our engagements and so forth. So as such, we don't really take the time to examine carefully what can really afford us true fulfillment and true happiness. Now, sentient beings, as we already discussed before, share this common desire of wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. And more specifically, when we are talking about human beings are uniquely the only sentient being who can begin to effectively think about the past, the present, and the future. So as such, there is a lot of expectations, a lot of hope, a lot of fear that we experience as human beings. And as we get caught up in our expectations, hopes, and fears, then we really kind of lose the bigger picture. And we cannot really see for ourselves the manner in which we can achieve true happiness. Now, through study, reflection, and practice, then this is exactly what we are doing. We are looking effectively at the causes of our suffering and how we can overcome these causes of our suffering. And we are looking at causes of true happiness and fulfillment and how we can achieve this.
세상에서 담보디 대디 만들어내는 거지. 만나서 샘디 집을 가내서도 집을 주카르도 마요에 쟁 카르도라. 그 상황에서 대신에 제비간 아니 대든도에나 대도 지난게 맞아 동반이다 오메코노 드는 시험도 스칼레 커버라. 이내야 뒤장제 시대는 주도 라파 창사던 주사다 삼당서 시지 말아나 테스트에 방법을 지난 뒤자침부터 신나도 빼버라.
Now, I want to spend some time addressing this very concern. What exactly can afford us true happiness and fulfillment, and what are the causes of this true happiness and fulfillment? And I think this is important to approach and explore before we can effectively go on to discuss and study the root text itself, because the root text itself immediately jumps into the wisdom of emptiness, the Madhyamika philosophy. So as such, if you do not have an understanding of the foundational approach of Buddhism towards spiritual practice and study, then maybe you do not have anything to grab onto to make sense of the teachings. So as such, we'll spend some time discussing this beforehand.
가정에서 시바나 신게 조등에서 지기 기본 왜 지드 가르라나 차당 무슨 거네라 다 차바다 당원다 뭐 몸봤음 디도등에서 두숨을 빼셔라 디제 아니 답변은 차병원에서 같이 둘라나 변나서 지 lumbalumbal라 맞아야 돼 롤리다 가서는 수수기 파기기 lum바들 지 주자라이나레 페뇨이나레 멤버이나 간다 온도 주에 들려 자신이라 딩은주 레고라 지선 된대로 다 차발을 빼러 샤와인 때때때 송이 지당에 나라서 주자라 가르라 뭐부 가르라 직 차단 슈 차바 슈체나 대전데 녀와라 되네 아니 주데 ចេ야 망부 두고다 라 페나 컨트롤라 속바 되네 망부 다til라 타요 라 차베기 온데 치네 다 당와도 다가라래 차베 온게 치네야 딜은 등암 친디 수술을 찍라야다 된대기 되네 치네 미망볼라 마가야 미망볼라 컨트롤 사고야 된대 망볼이다 라 대참마 칼라나 마리병 왕게 마리병이 젠친 먼저 레오라 진짜 양 따와지 마통네 아니 마치 튀나게 왕게 친구다.
So herein, it is important first to look at, as we discussed yesterday, what exactly is the cause of our suffering, and there needs to be an experiential appreciation of the cause of our suffering. We should be able to reflect back on our own experiences of suffering and how they are effectively conditioned by the afflictions, the disturbing emotions, and the manner in which it brings suffering to us. So, the true cause of our suffering is, from a Buddhist perspective, these disturbing emotions, such as anger, attachment, and ignorance. And now it is important to look closely at how anger or aversion brings suffering, and how attachment or desire brings suffering, and how these two are at their core conditioned by ignorance. This ignorance could be an unwillingness to accept reality or failing to understand reality as it is. So, for example, when we look at the larger conflict that we see in this world, wars between countries and so forth, then we can appreciate the fact that wars, conflict between nations, is derived by a sense of greed and attachment, wherein a particular country wants to invade the other country for the land, for resources, and so forth. And this is the bigger picture. Now, if we look at it carefully, it comes from the fact that these negative emotions arises within the mind stream of a particular individual, that these wars come to be. So similarly, when we're talking about the negative emotion of anger, then we can even look at the interrelationship between attachment and anger. Now, coming back to a more personal example, if you become attached to something, there is an object that you want for yourself, an object of your desire. Now, through the process of becoming attached to that object, you want to procure, you want to get this object for yourself. Now, immediately, when others want the same thing, then you immediately develop a sense of aversion towards those who want the same thing as you, because you are attached to it. You want this only for yourself. So this is the manner in which these negative emotions are interrelated. And from a Buddhist perspective, when we look at these three negative emotions, then at their core, they come from a basic sense of ignorance about the true nature of reality. Yes.
Tila maswe ba tati nga tu goba chi me barara kisi soso yapo go no soso kale jab pana lojong thona inare juno go thona inare chik tau ko sa kar nyi ni kar go in soso kale jan soso di raira middle thado chini me ya shimbaji yapo chan nga maga chi da te soso soso nga rang du rang nyi je ro chira ande ro chire da me yapo chune ko yapo re pe apre nga din de ro chula ne nga tu chilo da yen yapo chawala ne jese yeran chebi go ne so te jesen chutu ne yabara yen yapo chala te ne mase ne te ma thya ga thapse ta ra a ko yapo tere te chi re ni le ma mbe che ma thya te thado ra wo din di chene ya om da so mi tsele chibu ma yen ba shi chik tere da ani chik ne rensem ra a ko di yen nga di go de go di go la ne be den de chen ra so la ngone gi mi tsela la go ya khardu pena chitoni shitsa na so kar pe tang di goya de mi kola shimbaji du ngala di gola na ta di mi ya je do di gala so ta ta le ma de semba ka ngi thida ra mi mambo ji je ko penzo inare mi geba inare chimsan inare de ka ngi jang thong da ra yere ngara sa na da ra du sama khala na ani ji so ge kalo sem shiwa me ba so ya da ani sem ka ngi so ya zo de tirda ra anzu ni ma chi la kare go go du so
the reason that we are taking some time to reflect on this is we fail to appreciate the manner in which we effectively destroy our own sense of happiness and our own sense of peace. Now, if we look at the manner in which we normally justify reactions that stem out of anger, and the manner in which we justify and think that reactions such as jealousy, such as a sense of competition, comparing yourself to others and so forth is justified, it is important to reflect on it carefully and the manner in which it effectively destroys and destroys the inner peace that we have and disturbs the mind, and which when the mind or the mental state itself is disturbed, then the action that springs from such a disturbed mental state can only bring us suffering. So for example, when we are talking about we need to reflect back on the manner in which jealousy takes root within our mind stream, and how this affects our behavior, our attitude, and our interactions with others. Now, from a Buddhist perspective, this is one of the most useless things that human beings do, becoming jealous, being influenced by a sense of jealousy. Because if we truly do desire peace and happiness, then jealousy, when jealousy arises within us, then it begins to destroy any sense of acceptance that we might have, any sense of appreciation of others that we might have. So as such, any interaction that is informed by jealousy lacks acceptance, lacks appreciation of the others. So it cannot be a meaningful interaction at all. And as opposed to this having any result or any effect on the person that you are jealous of, it in effect disturbs and harms your own mental well-being. So similarly, we also accept competition as a part of our society nowadays. But at an individual level, it is important to kind of look at this and examine it carefully. Does it really serve any purpose to always compare yourself with others, to always have a sense of competition that with others? This is important to reflect back on. And do you agree with this when you reflect and examine this with your own experiences?
Yeah. Ni chesang ngaz de bele de samtai ra ngune re no bin chun ta war da ngaz seng chona da su special lo sha ji de la go re ta ji chun zu che di ngune re sha di ngune di pa na ngala pheng do du sa na la len ta pheng do mun de sa de ne nyen den tan de wa.
So this is important that we always relate what is taught, what is discussed to your own experiences, to effectively gauge for yourself whether this is true or not for yourself. It shouldn't be the case that you accept it simply as a teaching. To be able to relate the teachings to your own experiences and to be able to examine it for yourself, that is the duty of the participants themselves. Now, if it is indeed the case that when you begin to relate it to your experience and you find that maybe this is not true, then you can listen to the teachings from one ear and then let it out from the other.
아니 다 메게 주부 주는 게 제일 다시 타와도 제일 쉬우라 조등은 저 기부 마야 센 투에 참야 메게 주부 주는 야 마소네라 메게 주디 아니 라렌 타와이나 디니셈 마시와 참 강이 삼아 되는 거다.
So we are looking at how our attitudes, behaviors, and action brings us suffering, and we are looking at what exactly conditions and what exactly influences these attitude, these behavior, and these actions. And this is important to understand. We fail to appreciate this in our daily lives. So it is my intention to explore what we in Buddhism call the ethical conduct of not engaging in the 10 non-virtuous actions later on more extensively.
직 만디야 다 빵고야 다 싫어 샘 마시어서니 가르라네 더저체 라지 마시어 지금 드네 유모모 더저체라 다 원은 아주 다샘 기본에 주디 가르 단다 마치어서니 주드더라 주드도 무슨 거네 아니 다 집어서야 주 가르고라나 가르여라나 당아도 잼해 와 밀라직 나저준도 소지 신라 팬비 삼바요나 내가 카투가 잠도 중라시 버래 메질에 삼다네 소소를 중라시 버데 푸자는 볼래 소소를 펜도 와 아니 렌데데 자왕하시 켈렌지네 자와 심마심만 소소라야 펜도여라 세 딜레네 미 남두 젬페 일로에 산노 셴라 산노 타니들 가리네 미스나 야보인 거다 라니 찌포 라데 코주 찌포 조데니들 카투레 내급라 코나나 케벤다 데지 계산을 라시게데 푸자는 뭐 미사만 따지 아 거의 미야보 말 코라 라데 코주 짠냐래라니 예치 진이라이 말 도보토면나 타린도 라 근데 레디가 아니 찌 아니 수수 가리가 찌포 차래 아니 미질레 레와지 수수를 강이지 텐나 레와지고는 자서메죠 근데 차이도 근데 이제 젬페게 로이니들 수수가 파 젬페 지고도 주라게 레와요 말다 나 파 젬페 지는 알 수치 로바라이레 지 백해선지라이레 산은 마다와이네 그 뭐지 주스는 차네 개변이 돼요 지르도
So now, when we begin to examine this and reflect back on our own experiences, we begin to understand that indeed our suffering does indeed comes from our own actions. And then when we begin to examine our actions more closely, we begin to understand that these actions are influenced and conditioned by these negative emotions. So now we understand effectively what is the source of our suffering. It is these negative emotions or these disturbing emotions, these afflictions. Now we need to reflect on the other side. Now if we understand the source of our suffering, then what exactly is the source of our happiness? What exactly can help us achieve a true sense of happiness? So, from a Buddhist perspective, we begin to think about an altruistic intention, a sense of altruism, a sense of concern for others' well-being, others' concern, a wish to be of benefit and service to others as the true source of happiness. And it is important now to reflect on this too, how a true sense of fulfillment, a true sense of happiness it comes indeed from this kind of altruistic motivation. Now, when we think about the manner in which we live our lives, we are encumbered by our selfish concerns, and as such, we do not really think about others' well-beings, others' concern. Now, if we begin to live our lives simply motivated and driven by selfish concerns, it is important to reflect on how it affects our interactions, how we cannot really build meaningful and effective interactions with others, because we only would have our own concerns at our heart. And over time, even though for immediate purposes you might gain something out of this kind of selfish attitude, self-cherishing attitude, so to say, but over the long run, then you will begin to feel alienated yourself, because you wouldn't derive any kind of fulfillment, any kind of meaning from your interactions with others, and others wouldn't also ever want to grow close with you and want to interact with you. So as opposed to that, if your interactions with others is informed by this sense of altruism, then your own concerns are addressed and achieved simply as a byproduct of this kind of altruistic intention. For example, even if you do not solely seek out to achieve something for yourself, when you begin to work for others, when you begin to try to be of help to others, when you try to be of service to others, then your own concerns are achieved as a natural byproduct of this. And now, from a Buddhist perspective, it is important to place that kind of altruistic intention with the understanding and acceptance of rebirth and karma or the law of causality with regards to our actions.
다디치 아니 남도 밀레 샤사이나라 소소기 밀레 샤사이나 소소기 파기레 샤사이 인디가라 아니 뇌빌레가디 치기 마라 제가 샤사이 배 개침보다 가서 알콜 딘데치나 샤사 니젤라지로라 hinji도 khalan hinjiro je dungila masebi loji ta tinga khandas chawon tjita ta hinji jilang tashirawa de jindira deji loji gora ani di mai ge ya chisem anzu lega chine chigi khalota zamza khashi lega le yednira sosen gen kharin di ta ta chi ra theba chi matune yan dine mai ge chisem de ya mi mamboji nyamdo lega chiri gala an soso je le yede do tozo yan yakmunda ra ani khari chewa ina thambutansha chige 시세낭세 준시 내치 너무 야문다 되네 지기 샘kur 다 찌빠로 다 이도 샤자로 샘kur 해주라 밀 지강에 제 코칭 산노타마도니 러소제로 다 줄을 콜은 겐데 주케로 라
So without a sense of concern for others, then maybe it is really, really difficult to develop compassion, to develop love, to develop a sense of empathy towards others, because that's the foundation upon which we can develop true compassion, true love, and so forth. Now we will begin to explore how we understand love and compassion in Buddhism later on, but this is important to reflect on, that having a sense of concern for others is very important. Without that, then maybe it's a little bit difficult to derive a true sense of fulfillment in our interactions with others. Now, similarly, as we live in societies, communities, it is also important to appreciate the public interest, the common interest of society as a whole. Whereas the manner in which we live our lives, we are more driven by our personal interest, our own selfish interests at all times. So it is important to look at that too. And then we need integrity, honesty about who we are, about what we do, about our intentions, about our motivations. So these are the values, core human values that we need to appreciate and that we need to cultivate if we are to achieve a true sense of fulfillment and happiness in our lives.
아니 지 남도 yenlaji kukur chera kukur chera de mi nyane chene tongju chene de ol gue tanda mar chidangi me de mi porlo chi kushe de zitong yena rashi gi chambo chera ra mi chama yame ro chi tongju ro tan mi de digu chayo mara kare ne chi khaz zuya kushe da 아니 samhi che 다 소소라이 땅이 되는 적입니다. 파기밀라야 된대지리에서 samhi che de peke chim보다 라 samhi 마제나 아니 미디 가와다나 소소라드나 소소나알데나 소소나미 징이제나 tropotromonyandrana kawena kangi thigida samhi de be mas be kechamara ani chichile aro chikangi do ten namsa ropa che ra ta kpai kangi nya che yame tangna shatsami juro ya bomda kesi migi mitsile de zamda chibu zamda dubo yongore zamda paropa che go zamda suchi che go yongore ra 먼저 제니 마시바 단 zam리디가 되고라 사주 가와도인 디디가라 수준 예콜라 직강에 되되니나 가두로바 라 대 수수 지랑게 미야르게 제상에 레가레데 수수게 셈라니 시델 당 지게 가르다 셈야 지봉외게 주로 체다.
So we are looking at these things because from the moment that we are born until the moment we pass away from this world, we have to live in this society, in this world, along with other human beings. So as such, we come into most of our life is spent in interaction with others. So as such, it is important to ensure that we are able to derive a sense of fulfillment, a sense of happiness from this interaction from these interactions that we have with others. So as such, it is important to ensure that our interactions with others are informed by these core human values. So for an interaction with someone else to become meaningful, then there needs to be a sense of intimacy first in the interaction, and this intimacy cannot build without having a sense of concern for others. And if there is a sense of closeness and intimacy that we expect in our interactions with others, then cannot do without a sense of concern for others. And on the basis of this sense of concern for others, then true empathy, true sympathy can develop in the relationship. And on the basis of that, then we also need to be willing and open-minded, willing to help each other and open-minded with each other. Open-minded herein referring to a willingness to accommodate others' perspectives, others' circumstances, others' views, and so forth. And willingness herein referring to not express only dull indifference to others' sufferings, to not be apathetic to others, but to be willing to help others when they are suffering. And these are important to take into account. These must be cultivated as core human values if we are to experience a true sense of fulfillment and happiness in our interactions with others. Yes.
아니 지진을 단다 제와체라 아니 지칼로다 진라 제와다 구글 안마다 ka chetong la jira ra chetong lesson ko thonju legi mara cheton tinga thonju che gi thonju di gar jipa gaya gi kunin gendara jida mejile tenjo da ji kushero chewena mila thonju da nyane che de ga ra tima so ya cha 아니 다 간다 소소라 간다 지고도 미 나나들 지고다 cheton 고고래 깨다 고고래 사야 통에나 야부 고고래 아니 지금로서 대사 거에나 야부 고다 파기 미들라 다 가나 고고라 제가 근데 인디가라 소소를 고바나지 파기들라 파 칼로 들어가나 고고요 배는 저기 패션날이야 라 랑기룰라 펠라네 젤라 네바 마지 신스라 랑기룰라 간다 지고도 근데지 파기들라 안 되고 말아 랑을 되 문제 받을 컨트롤 안 되고 말아 랑을 되 받을 컨트롤 안 되고 되니 이 펠라네 라 ngal tinde gagimna ko gagimarsa tinde pang goya de pekecham bada.
So now when we look at all of these core human values that one must cultivate, then one might get the sense that this is coming at the expense of our own concerns, our own concerns, and it always seems to take into account and place more importance on the welfare and benefit of others. Now, think about it in this manner. When we are talking about these core human values, such as having respect, a sense of concern, integrity, openness, willingness in our interactions with others. Now, think about a simple thing like offering a sense of dignity, ensuring that there is a sense of dignity in the interactions that we have with others, offering others and always accommodating this sense of dignity for others. Then reflect back upon yourself. You yourself do desire that kind of dignity. You yourself want happiness. You yourself want others to be empathetic, to have a concern for your well-being. So, in effect, what we are doing is, on the basis of this acceptance that just as I want these things for myself, just as I want happiness, others also want these things. Others also want happiness. Just as I do not want suffering, then others also don't want suffering. So it comes from that consideration, and we need to be able to accept this, that just as you desire happiness, others also desire happiness. So it doesn't really come from always placing your others' concern ahead of yourselves. It actually comes from appreciating your own concern and realizing that we all have the same concerns and desires. So, for example, in the Buddhist scriptures, one is advised to reflect in this manner. Take your own body as an example, and then take your own body as an example, and then cultivate your practice of restraining yourself from harming others. So just as you yourself wouldn't want anyone to inflict any harm upon your body, then similarly extend that kind of concern for others too, because others wouldn't also want anyone to inflict harm upon them.
Tene anzo chikali dena shengi chen so deja Karine kangi teun lamsa susul taji chi nga takta de ra ngi thadon de sa shu chete de nga ta de ti shunju che de peke chimda so shunju che anzu zam mi phatta ya de ngan pele la do a phagi dim de yagi dim magi dim de le ja undi main ki chen tambo so ta je ya go che de peke chimda so ta chi ne ani so no tu thon ya dani phagi no tu dran shi ki shiru da ala nga no tu je ko re mun san phagi len je ranga thadon de so we sama go ka do 제가 때 팽비기 칼로 소소를 지분 외에 주차치래다. 와. 대체 아니 다 남자 주는 것도 배 거리네 텔러라 미사마. 와 레든 간지 토라직 레든 치기젤 치기 파ን디 치기젤 치기 파ን디 배 텔러서 도거라. 이나 지난 내가 지도 고거라 가서 치기 사고 동거를 대어를 지고를 샘 흘려 샤리 개침보다. 와. 소소 대줄을 빠be 칼칼칼 드더 도거라. 이내야 가식배 찍잖아 찍잖아 지금 감라 셈벌 감라 전전서디야 라시기 생각하기 튀다 나 저도 되는데 얘네 하우마스 지당 이미 생긴 도단지도 텔라 딴자 제 맛은 대추 호라 라팅 파원지도 치마도네 강이 튀니 마부시도 제가 되네 마요 제 베게 잡으죠.
Now similarly it is important that we in moments of challenge in moments of challenge, it is always important to examine our own attitudes, our own behaviors, our own actions at all times, because the manner in which we normally react to situations and challenges is to always blame something apart from ourselves, to always blame the situation, to always blame people other than ourselves, and in that we always look at ourselves as being blameless, and as such we develop what we call a blaming attitude, wherein we project all our fears, hopes into a situation, and we fail to appreciate this fact, and we begin, when things go wrong, then when things don't turn out the way we expect it to, then immediately we begin to blame others for this. Now, rather than that, it is always important to reflect on your own emotions, attitudes, behaviors, and actions to see if you yourself are not contributing to the situation. This is important to reflect on, because if we can somehow overcome that blaming attitude, then we are saving ourselves from a lot of trouble, because we would not be so reactive. We would not be so mindless in the way that we begin to blame others or outside circumstances for our own experiences of suffering. Now, similarly, in this day and age, everybody live very busy lives. They have things that they want to pursue, things that they have to do, one thing after the other. So as such, if we do not kind of slow down sometimes to take moments to reflect back on what exactly is it that we are pursuing, what exactly it is that we are running after in this life, then if we simply just keep being busy for the sake of being busy, then this is maybe not so healthy at all. Because I'm not saying that all of you have such problems, but the manner in which people become easily agitated in this day and age, how many people have problems of anxiety, comes from this kind of lifestyle, wherein they don't take a moment to reflect, they don't take a moment to reflect, and they don't take a moment to calm down a bit, because their very lifestyles push them to become agitated all the time, to be anxious all the time.
Sem namdo be kangi chitangi nganzo chi juangi tuya do da ani chi karkangi da chi yorta chilo do da ani sayun do da tende yang ra so chi tamandi be kangi yorde kangi mambu chi nganzo seng so ra sem dia namdo go di mendo di indo chi gi di la mendo pa gi di mendo chi mi ji yapo chi chi gi na di yapo inji maralan susu gi namdo di nganzo trenju ra ngara seng trenja ra so ngone gi chilo kangi de marwa 이내 간주 직 담보 안주 직 단담다니 아니미 담다다 아니 칸데 근데 실로 직 공양 희기라 담보 실로 봐 카테 Ti indamana tondamana ko, tin sukung nganzo namdo sushavura. Ti ngoyo ne sila nganzo kangite dhara rela na mara susu tensha ju mambuji. Ta ina ya chi chuin jiba, da lung jiba, me jiba, ta tende yora. Tazo ngoyo ne sila nganzo kayo la ye tonga de yora de kangi mambuji nganzo sengbu so ra. Zamza nganzo chi naya da lugi ting na lugi kangi dua. Ina ya di gala ya tando sengbu namdo yo teba tang. Ra. Pena mishi nawa ina pedo sha nga naga dula ni kora lugi kangi chido yora. Ti gandla ya nabi gandla ya nga khasin na ina ko bu kharsin na men ra ani dinde do di ngala chungo ya kharin sanu mamata ani so ma pashu ya da dinde nga namdo mambu jile ngda dinde kangi ma cha namdo nga sanu ya botana ra dinzu pe sanu zo ta so namdo e kaya da chin sanu dam no khona o nga no gudule ne so simba ga ya bi kan cha ra zanza nga pe shal tam le do de ne sanu de khoni nga kangi so ya urin tambo pe le pe gashi troshi de ne sanu sitani urin tango ya de suda sakang pa shol ne ba chen yu ma ra mine susu nga ran namdo sanu tang tang ji tu she a de chi da chi de nga ran le susu pe le chi ra ani ta tambo de sun.
So now on top of the physical suffering that we experience in this life, maybe our suffering for most part is more mental in its nature. When we think about it, that in Buddhism we say that many of our suffering are self-created, man-made in its nature. Now, of course, there are external conditions which give rise to suffering too. But when we look at the manner in which we become uneasy, we become agitated, we become anxious, and as a result we begin to suffer, then we know that many of these problems actually stems from the mind itself. And as such, if we are to overcome such kind of suffering, it must be addressed at that level, at that foundational level of the mind itself. So when we look at how we become overwhelmed sometimes by our own thoughts and emotions, then this is exactly what we are talking about. For example, at its basic, at a very basic level, we refer to these as conceptual thoughts. And then when it begins to overwhelm us and it gives rise to anxiety, agitation, and a sense of unease, then we refer to them as discursive thoughts and emotions. Now, herein, it is important to understand what exactly do we mean when we say that discursive thoughts and emotions gives rise to unease, agitation, and anxiety in our mind. Because it might be the case that our mind itself is at rest, but as soon as a thought, an emotion arises within it, then our minds immediately latches onto this, and as such, the mind is no longer at ease. And then on top of these thoughts, another thought appears, another emotion arises, and as such, a lot of thoughts and a lot of emotions begins to overwhelm us. Now, this is just one aspect of it. Now, herein, the danger is when we let these thoughts and emotions that arise in our mind dictate our reaction to external situations. Or worse, when we begin to project these thoughts and emotions onto situations, then we almost are no longer in touch with reality itself. We are living in our heads. We are living very reactively in accordance with our thoughts and emotions. So as such, it is important that we understand the importance of overcoming these discursive thoughts and emotions, that there is the possibility that we can overcome these discursive thoughts and emotions, and that we don't have to let these discursive thoughts and emotions always dictate our actions and our reactions. So for example, think about it in this manner. If someone is sick and has fallen sick, then maybe there is the physical suffering itself. But if that person who has fallen sick begins to think about, why am I sick? Why is it only happening to me? Why doesn't this happen to others? And then what does this effectively do? It is only compounding the physical suffering by adding more mental stress onto the patient. And this is not created by someone else, but the patient's own thought, the patient's own emotions. And now the patient begins to project these thoughts and emotions onto the physical suffering, and as a result of which they become demotivated. It hampers their recovery. So this is what we mean. So as such, even think about, like, when you sit alone in your room, it could be the case that at one moment your mind is totally at ease and at calm, but then you give in to your discursive thoughts and emotions at one point, and then after a while, thinking after 5 minutes, you have to really let out a sigh of relief that, okay, my thoughts, because you are overcome by your thoughts and emotions. So this is the manner in which we also need to pay attention to the manner, to the way in which we relate to our discursive thoughts and emotions. Yes.
대체 아니 대체 이렇게 됩니다. 다 계속 수선 점점 상다. 티강이 등할 가르면서 수치보 산다다. 전자 예연도 따라 소설 강이 주고 있는 텔레 강이 체시 유니저라. 라 페나 소설 라파로 있는 당연히 이 라파도 산다 치보 단단 강이 빼쳐도다. 아티 카르가 라파치 치보래. 메셴바 베다 좀 간단하니요. 가시마야 알마산 베도 그런 거도 좀 참아마서니요. 근데 산다 라시 소설까지 준주책이다. 라 지금 밀레 켄저 추다 지때때루라 텐데산나다야 아니 남자 주인이 밀레 참부체 뺏기 전부다 수수지기 예다 연 참마 더보통 있는 지부다 기 참마 가르네 게무츠 참으면은 참을롱도 때 밀로도 따르는 수수지부메 파지부메 쳬지부메 텐데기 똑바 지금 컨트롤한사기 미지요나 파기 미디 깨지 약부치네 수수 두자거든 그래서 나도 그 제색이 시차로 남들 빼 참부터 보면 킬로 두자실라나 그 저금을 다들 큰 아닌데 근데 요 말을 사면 실려와 제가 미 남들 나셔진 수저 trobo 이날에 정바 침세 이날에 가리네 지 수저 가르는 밀 참부 제 뺏게 전부다
So similarly, try to think about this example that if you hurt your hand, then if you only think about the fact that you hurt your hand, and then you begin to develop the thought, why did this happen to me? Why is my hand hurting so much? Then what exactly happens to that experience of initial physical suffering? It becomes more pronounced because you begin to project all your thoughts and emotions onto that physical suffering. Now, as opposed to that, if you begin to open up your mind, to come out of your head in a way, to say that, okay, my hand is hurting, but there are far greater suffering than this that others experience. People have fallen down from cliffs, broken their limbs. People have endured through far greater suffering. Then if you begin to think about it in this manner, not giving in to your own discursive thoughts and emotions, by taking into account the reality of suffering itself and how it pervades all beings, then what happens to your sense of suffering at that moment? It becomes a little bit mitigated. So this is the effect that our mental state can have an effect on our experience of suffering. And this is why in Buddhism we talk about the importance of overcoming our discursive thoughts and emotions, not to project all our thoughts and emotions onto situations. And now, moving on, if we are to experience a true sense of fulfillment and happiness with our interactions, from our interactions with others, then it is important that we become harmonious with our surrounding, with our people. And herein, it is important to realize that unless and until we do not have any sense of harmony with our surrounding and with our people, then we will begin to experience a sense of resistance, a sense of strife in our interactions. So as such, if we are to experience a true sense of harmony with our surrounding and people, then it comes, as we already discussed before, with that basic sense of concern for others. Without that, if you only care about yourself, then your actions will undermine the very interaction that you are trying to build with others.
다양 강이 치딩 하는 나라의 카일라의 카르 통슬라네 엔드로스다 미드즈 소소 제크 고텔 이 데바마칸 아가도 고텔데 두 야보 민들은 근데 양산단데 구스도라 아니 소소게 레갈레스 코유 보스다 지기 조르 어디 야봄데 담음 딘데기 산단데 딘데기가 그냥 강이 마무리리다 근데 소소게 데이터 야보 메바 이나야 미 심바하지 칸데도 같이 델레 두어드니 저절만 다 아니 가저디 아포레샤선 소소 생야에 소에로스도 같이 엔데 두다다 지체는 소소 제급다 샤신 유타는 게 베베나로야다 제가 심바나로야도 다 안수디 간다니 디기면 지진이 마물란 지체는 생크루 인기를 지체는 소소소 강이서다 아니 제가 심바가 미 고테 가는 참아야 말아라 근데 이디야 알레다 가저디 근데 인후스다 근데 인기를 사면에 sen 라시기 말려려야 미 심바 델레 두어 마보다 야 마보 두어 참았다서 뜻은 로고 개참보다 소소 나 가정에마도 실런도 되는데 셈도 강에 이제 빼면 당아서 가르치고 그러면서 이제 그 공부한 것도 되는데 딱 가르치고 되는라니도 근데 이네 계시 전 개투 말해 계시 저와 땅 투 말라 저와 땅 투는데 그 센티치고 말 저와 땅 쇼라 저와 땅 투 말에 안에서도 TV도 다 되네 뉴스 두자더니 대소소라 강에 트는데 맘보지다 근데 이디가래 수치부만 심바들라다야 딜레강이 유주다 지 메말라 강이 테데 좀바기 제거야 오메디 맘보여라 아도저다 등한테 어드레셔라냐 소소 심바디야 란제 따따로 샤트에 근데 서 지단기 다 소소기 제거지부만 인가 소소 롬바이나 소소 나미나 소소 부고이나 간다 참알디 리번데라 온디 베키심보다.
Now, one thing that I wanted to address, and it is something that I experienced, that I noticed and observed myself personally when I traveled to the West. And many people really seem to be very, very disturbed, very, very dissatisfied with their leaders, with the leaders of their countries, and some also have the same kind of dissatisfaction with their employers, their bosses, so to say. Now, especially when I look at the manner in which people become really, really disturbed and dissatisfied with the leaders of their own country, I think that this is not really healthy also, that you let all your thoughts, all your emotions be dictated and be consumed by this kind of political situation. I understand that maybe it also comes from a sense of concern, but it is important that this sense of concern does not give into a lack of acceptance of reality itself. It is important, even though you do not agree with the policies of your national leaders and so forth, it is important to accept that whether I disagree, whether I am not satisfied with these leaders and politicians, I have to accept that this is reality first. And now, with this kind of acceptance, maybe you do not become so disturbed, so dissatisfied all the time. And then with this kind of acceptance, now you can move forward to see whether you can affect some change or not. This is where you need to dedicate your effort and energy towards, rather than being disturbed, dissatisfied all the time. And I think this is important to take into account in this day and age, because we consume so much information all the time. It is important to look at look also carefully at the manner in which we consume information and how this affects our mental states and our mental health.
so khaye ban de batsina ani kibuda de ba matsina cho mashina de ne kangi mamada te chi ji ta to duwe yin ta anza khalana migi to migi se matu so ya chikche ani rang se matu ra shilo ne ta rang se tu de ne te ya kangi de da ra ani yi mi shimba ge se ba tu ga da anza kha de ji me na de ti ke janda ma de shewa na khari na ju da ma de na shen se tu go ra shen se tu de ne rang se ra shi ma de wa chang pa ge le migi ne ba ji le ngora
So now, if we are to experience a true sense of calm, peace, happiness, and fulfillment in your life, then it cannot do without cultivating a true sense of contentment. Without contentment, happiness would be impossible. Now, now in short, when we look at all of these important core human values, it is important that we understand it in this manner, that don't disturb the mind stream of others, don't disturb someone else's mind, don't let your own mind be disturbed by external conditions. That's the gist of it. Because if you yourself begin to actively harm others, disturb others, then your own mind becomes disturbed. Because there's a sense of unease that you begin to experience for having engaged in such actions. And so, in short, don't let yourself become disturbed and don't disturb others. So what did you pick from this discussion? What do you take away from this discussion? So maybe this could be a revision of some sorts. So what did you pick up from this extensive discussion?
I think for me it's a great reminder that just how I want to be happy, others also want to be happy and not get competitive, which is a very built-in feature of the society.
Tene soso dewa na shishen dewa duji re la de la ni lokha chue jora. Ti kechimbo thongson sura kain sena namju nganzu chiso na la drodan ro di da jindur jina bashu chimbo shiu jora. Ngala khoya ga goy ngala khomanga goy le. In samna ma shi do jela samna tana samna dewa de bachi bare la de la samna tana di aputus. Anyone else?
Victimizing oneself really leads to more suffering. Like victimizing oneself leads to more suffering.
Dene Quran la na susu la chi khalor. Susu la da dubu nyang ro chi ta de na ta ba ra. Ni susu tere yang manga ni dungye manga su yo re susu la.
I personally think it's kind of a mix of that I am helpless because of external situations, but what is in my control is how I respond to it. So it's like I'm like an electrician and there are all wires. So I can't conduct the electricity, but I can change the wiring and connect different appliances. So that's what I can say.
The Quran la na ra. Ta ngai chi kan che yo ma re la ti dance ra. Ani chilo gi chi gi chen jo ra. Chi gi chen la ta susu gi jiwa tang la di ra. Shu yo ma re susu gi che ke yo ma re. Ina susu gi chi ji chen de la sra. Nang sim ne dong len khande che la jo ra. Ti ta ta chi du susu la ba yo res. Samlo chi ta na ni susu lo so nye chi yo ra. Lo tang ma dang la di ko gi la ba yo ma ra. Ina lo tang yo ba so yo ra ta. Di tabada masuna yama tuye jira. Di kogi korang la chazan korang la ba yoras. Ti da bu tong sons. Anyone else would like to share? Yes.
No, I'm not really want to share anything else, but I do this one. Anila can share about the Anila experience, how to stop harm and disturb anyone in the family, in the social, in the with practice person. So share more about it, not harm and disturb anyone.
Ni mogi tiwadaredo. Geshema chirangi nyongwagi junesra, chirangi nyamlingi june, ni tagi nganzogi shensen madu larwada. Shenla nutsi machi la jura. Te dende nutsi machi ya chi losra. Susu chimna ina, jitsona ina ra. Te la tapshi kari yoresra.
Jinsen matu la tapshi kari.
Shensen matu ya shenla nutsi machi ya chi.
Jinsen matu ya kala na. Chidang nganzo keche shenare, chigyo namju tenare, jinla podu manre. Ra keche shena jambo she goya chi namju shitena ya puten goya na diga chapten chibo maya ngone ni takpa ne ra ti chituna rashi giligra na chapten re khadeo she geba chi zuma ro shlo go papa de namju ya puten nalo ko ko du jai na ya tada dewa mara tinde zo ke ta khanda chen sen ma tu la wara chesa chi ne nganzo ya keche chola mela mela chi tushi jai ke mambo she ne chen se tu ra so di nganzo dodo de khala na 수수로 lunga yesu godi tamyadi kechembarla ti tene chewayna pagi jesa tugumar
So if we are to not harm others, not disturb others, be it in our family, in our society, or the world at large, then it's really simple if you really think about it. We need to be mindful and heedful of our own actions. And when I say that we need to be mindful and heedful of our actions, we're not just referring to the actions of the body. We are talking about our speech, the manner in which we speak, the manner in which we interact with others, the manner in which we act, the manner in which we think. So as such, it is important that we are gentle, we are open, we are honest with others. We do not mindlessly engage in speech, action, and speech action that harm others. Now, it might be the case that when we say that we need to be mindful and heedful of our actions, our speech, and our attitudes, it might be the case that we only assume the appearance of being a nice person, speaking very gently to others, and not trying to just assume the appearance, acting as if. But this is not what we mean. These actions should be a natural expression of our motivation, of a pure motivation. So as such, it should be informed and come from a genuine and pure motivation of not harming others, of being of service to others. Yes.
Tenanga zo suje che ani jela yang de chang son su shema len che ora ti che tanda kashi yang nungko chö ma chö de ora inji mi sa che takara de go mara so so nungko ma chö ni ne de ya den de ora kashi yang jela ni je ni ma mambo de an che nan pe sa da sa la tu ching na ida ra ka zo cha ne de me kashi nungko go ra kashi go mara so so kawa de ni tan nungko mesal den de go de ya kawa de ni de res
So we'll break for tea at this point, and before we break, I want to tell you that if you are not comfortable under the fans, please, you can sit anywhere you feel more comfortable, because it is pointless to kind of sit through it and then you become sick later on. And so if you don't want to sit under the fan, you can sit anywhere you feel more comfortable. Around here, anywhere. Well, okay, we break for tea then.